So we've had a lot of fun here, on the General Tire set. And, one of the questions I asked some of the interviewers were, can you skip a jig under a dock? So on a serious note, I'm going to show you my jig skipping setup, show you a few different jigs and why I like them and why you need to have them. The first and most important thing that I can tell you is, when we're flipping or casting a jig, a lot of times, especially flipping it around docks and you're not skipping it, you're going to use a longer rod, like a 7.6, 7.10, 7.11. But when you go to start skipping a jig, you have to have a shorter rod so you don't hit the water when you have that skipping motion. So I use a 7-foot 1-inch rod. It's got a little bit more tip than I normally would use to help propel that bait up underneath the dock. Also, it's a time when I wouldn't have my reel filled completely full with fluorocarbon. I'm going to have it a little bit less. That's going to help you with those backlashes. If you make an errant cast or you hit a dock leg back underneath that dock. So have a little bit less line on there. It's also important on your jig to have some sort of planing surface right there. This here is an Archie style jig. It's an Andy's custom bass jig. It's got a hand-tied skirt. That's really important because when it's hitting that water, if I had a regular silicone rubber skirt that's not hand-tied, it could pull down. So this is going to stay on there no matter how hard I skip it up underneath the dock. And also, then the trailer. This trailer here is really dirty because we've been having a lot of fun around here in the office, but it's flat right there. Again, just mimicking something that when it hits the water, it can just keep skipping and get way up underneath that dock. I like a little bit heavier jig. It's also going to help you get it further up in there. That's a 1/2-ounce jig with a Zoom Super Chunk on it. That would be my setup to skip a jig under a dock. Skeet out there obviously wouldn't need a bait this good, this big to catch the kind of fish that he's used to catching. I would tie this bait on to catch some real fish, some fish that we're going to want to take across the scales. I'm doing this in here in private to where he can't hear me because I don't want to give away my secrets. But on the serious side, this would be my all-time topwater favorite. It's a Megabass Diamante, Dog X Diamante. I love this finish on it. It's got a little flash to it as that bait's coming through the water. It's got a 3-hook version to where I get really, really good hook sets, and it's loud. A lot of times you call fish from a long ways off. This style bait is a walking bait. People call it walking the dog, and it's important to have that rattle. I really like that rattle. The only time I don't use a rattle, if it's really gin clear water and shallow. I mean shallow. You don't need a water. They can still feel you don't need a rattle. They can feel the presence of that bait. Another key component in throwing a topwater bait like this, put it on braid. Braid has no stretch. And if you really think about topwater fishing, you can cast this bait a mile. You look how it's built. It's built specifically for that. It's built like a bullet. So as that thing's going through the air as you cast it, it's very aerodynamic. Distance is very important. Topwater, fishing, those fish are very skittish. They're up close to the surface where your boat is, especially over deep water. So it's very, very important to make that long cast. And 9 times out of 10, when you make that long cast, the first 3 feet is when you get that blow up, that big skeet reese explosion as he's staying in there. For a fish that big, you want them this big. But that's when you get the bite. So that's where the braid comes in. Braid has zero stretch. If you take something like fluorocarbon, it has quite a bit of stretch. Monofilament has a lot more stretch. Fluorocarbon sinks, so you can't use fluorocarbon on topwater. Monofilament has all that stretch, so when you set the hook on that long cast, you don't move that fish, you don't penetrate those hooks in that fish's mouth. So it's so important to have braid, and it also makes it much, much easier to walk the dog with these style baits. So I use a medium action rod, just a 7-foot medium action rod with a limber rod because I have a line that has no stretch. You have to have some give somewhere in there, but you'll get an excellent hook set with that braid. High speed reel, another key component, that 8-3 to 1, to be able to work it really fast, be able to take up that slack really fast when you get that bite. But that's my favorite bait right there, Diamante. They have some awesome colors. You look at this one right here. It is a cool perch bluegill pattern. I just love that thing. Great shad pattern. That's about all you need.